Wars. This is a really interesting thing that's popped up here. Now bear with me, everyone. Bear with me here because it was breaking news from uh I guess it was Christian Harloff. Now, I don't know how many of you know. If you're in the pop culture realm with podcasts and YouTube, I'm sure you know or heard of Christian Harloff. He's a comedian, but he also does pop culture commentary. He has his own show, the Christian Harloff Show. He did a Joe Schmoes, which was kind of like a trivia show. He then was part of the Collider team for a while. He then did a show called The Big Thing. Now it's just the Christian Harloff Show. So he's been around the block for quite some time, for a number of years with pop culture. But he also is a huge, huge Star Wars fan. He did a show called The Jedi Council. Then he did the Sith, The Sith Council, I think. He's been around for a while, but he apparently has some kind of insider information. I wouldn't call him a scooper. He's kind of on the same level of what's his face that hangs around Jeff Snyder all the time. But he's sometimes puts out some information that some people don't always have. And recently, just today, he says Natalie Portman could return as Padme Amidala in Ahsoka Season 2. Now, what's interesting about that is, well, we know Natalie Portman, Padme Amidala, died, spoilers, in Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Now, that doesn't mean anything because we saw Hayden Christensen return in not just Ahsoka Season 1, but also in the Obi-Wan series in a flashback. It's very well possible. It's possible that we can see this happen. We could see Padme show up in some kind of flashback because there was a flashback in Ahsoka in a way. So it could happen. And people then started freaking out about this. Like, why? Why would you do this? The only way this can happen is flashbacks. Why would you do this? Could she be in the world between worlds? Why is this happening? The sky is falling. People were freaking out. I, on the other hand, am sitting back like, okay, first off, Skeleton Crew, which just came out last week, was really good. And I'm not saying that, hey, that fixes all the issues with Star Wars, specifically after the atrocity that was The Acolyte. But after something that was really good like Skeleton Crew, I can sit back and say, okay, let's see how this plays out. And that's kind of how I looked at it. I'm like, okay, they're going to bring Padme Amidala back. Well, let's see how it plays out. Because honestly, you bring in a classy actor like Natalie Portman, somebody who is a very great actor like Natalie Portman. As long as the story works, it's not going to hurt anything. So I was kind of like, this is kind of cool. And the report was Dave Filoni has been pushing for her to return and a deal was close. But just a few hours later, from Star Wars Newsnet, update, Natalie Portman not in negotiations for Ahsoka Season 2. Now, if we take a further look at Star Wars Newsnet, a source told Star Wars Newsnet that the rumor shared below is not accurate. We don't have any details to add, but as of today, Natalie Portman is not in negotiations to return to Ahsoka Season 2. What is going on? What is going on? Honestly, I think one of two things. I think this information was not to get out there, and I think either one, they're trying to mitigate this getting out there, or two, they got the information somewhat wrong, and there could be something else that they're bringing Natalie Portman back for in some form or fashion. I just think it's really curious and very interesting that there were talks about Natalie Portman coming back to Star Wars. I want to say it was about 6 months ago, maybe even like a year ago. There was rumors swirling. There was talks about it. And then all of a sudden this comes up. I think something's brewing. It feels very similar to what happened with Ewan McGregor a number of years ago, where there was talks, there was discussions. People were like, yeah, we want this to happen. We want this to happen. And there was like, maybe if I get a phone call, maybe if this happens, sure, if it happens, blah, 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 whatever. And then boom, it happened. And everyone's like, hey, of course it happened. I kind of feel like maybe that's what's going on here with Natalie Portman. I kind of feel like it's going to happen. It's probably going to happen. Maybe it's not in Ahsoka. Maybe it's in something else, or maybe it is Ahsoka. Who knows? Regardless, I think people need to calm down and chill out, and let's just see what happens at this point in time. I'm not mad about it. Like, I enjoyed the first season of Ahsoka. I know a lot of other people didn't. I'm not saying it's the best Star Wars that we've gotten. It's definitely not, but I enjoyed it for the most part. And let's see what happens. Let's just see what happens. Look, you all know my stance on Star Wars for the most part, specifically modern day Star Wars. It is not good, but there have been a few glimpses of decent, we'll say decent, over the last few years. Ahsoka, I feel, is one of those glimpses of it being decent, and Skeleton Crew and Mandalorian season 1 and season 2. So since we've had a few moments of good, decent stuff, why not? Let's give them a chance. Let's see what happens. That's all I have to say. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what you have to think.